What is up, all my country pickers? So, out of tune Tele here. So, what's some things to check when you're a new tech or you're just a tech in general setting up a Tele? So, yes, I just messed up the screws, I'm aware. But one of the things I see a lot of guys do is they don't make sure their 3-barrel saddle screws are straight. So what I do is I'll take my screwdriver and I'm going to line it up with where the screw is. And I'm going to say, is that straight? That is not. Okay, so we want it to ideally look like that. So using the screwdriver, we're going to push it into place. Okay. Now one of the nice things is this is a flat edge here. So if you just rest it up against the bridge, it should give you a pretty idea of what true center is. So we're going to pull this one over. Okay. Okay, now, another thing that I see a lot of guys do is they go too precise on their action, especially if it's a 7.25. They try to replicate the radius too much, and they drop the sides down. Well, the problem is, on a lot of Teles, that creates no room in between the 3 barrels, and oftentimes what happens is the barrels on the outside, when you drop them all the way, end up leaning angled like this is, and that messes with this saddle here in the middle. Sometimes it'll push over a little bit. Sometimes if they're pushed together, it'll make all of them kind of awkward. And sometimes that can cause tuning instability. So I don't like to have them super angled. Now, on a 7.25, which is a lot of what old school fenders are, you do what you got to do. This one is a 12-inch. So this is actually a modified radius gauge. It's a product of mine that I've designed specifically for setting up your guitar. Not going to talk too much about that here. You can go see other videos about it, but really all I do, and usually when it's not for video purposes, I hold it right above the plate and listen to each string, but my big hand would be in the way so you wouldn't really see anything. So I hold it up here by the neck pickup. And if you can slide your pick across and you don't hear your note stringing out like that, then you know it's touching. So if we check intonation, okay. So B is in, but E is sharp. Now, whenever a tech inquires and asks me what do I do on the road, I tell them to choose one. Is everything going to be a little sharp, or is everything going to be a little flat? Because what you don't want is you don't want to set this where one string's a little sharp, set this pair one's a little flat, and then set this one where one's a little sharp, because it's just going to sound off. So whatever you do on one, you got to do it across all of them. And unfortunately, with these vintage barrels where they're just a pure round barrel, you're never going to have perfect intonation on these. That's why so many companies have come out with aftermarket barrels that still sound vintage, but they have better intonation abilities. But I think one of the beauties of the classic Tele sound is that it's not always perfectly intonated. So those are most of the tips I have for you on Tele bridges. One last thing too is this here. This is a tilting screw for your pickup. And if you notice, as I loosen it, the pickup doesn't shift a whole bunch, but it starts to lean back. So what I always do is, and it'll be hard to do in this video, but I'll hold the last string, or the last fret, And what I'll do then is I'll make sure that the pickup is parallel to the string. And then of course I'll set the pickup height, which I'll do at a later date. But one of the things with these Tele pickups is you don't want the pickup angled up real high or angled real low. You want it to be as parallel to the strings as possible, and that third screw gives you that ability. Now the neck pickup, unfortunately, can kind of do what it wants. This one not so much because there's not room in the pickguard for it to do so, but they came out with this third screw to help adjust that. So those are my tips and tricks for your Tele bridge. Stay twanging and check out my next video.